What's up, everyone? I hope you're doing well today. This is Raphael Garcia here for episode number 63 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I thank you for taking your time to listen to this show, and I appreciate all the support that you give us. You can catch all of our content over at MMARatings.net. That's where you find my writing, Adam Martin's writing. Schwan does some work there as well too. We have two weekly podcasts. The first is the MMA Ratings Podcast, which is every Tuesday. We usually promote that on Wednesdays, so that's usually our drop date. But you can find that on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, and Breaker as well. And you can always go over to YouTube and catch us at MMA Ratings, where we post all of our content. This wrestling show is a little bit less consistent. I haven't been so great with it over the last like maybe month or so, but I'm trying to get back to weekly weekly editions of this content. As I said, we are up to episode 63, which is actually pretty good. I'm doing better than I thought I would, but there's always room for improvement. You can catch me over at rgarcia_sports, where I'm usually talking MMA, pro wrestling, and everything in between. If you don't believe Black Lives Matter, then you might as well do yourself a favor and not follow me or unfollow me or block me, mute me, whatever it may be, because I'm definitely going to tell you about that as well too. So let's go ahead and jump into it because we have a couple of different things to talk about. I think we're going to go for maybe 25, 35 minutes, maybe most. So let's go ahead and talk about that because first I want to have a conversation about Keith Lee. He is the NXT champion. He is the organization's first double champion in NXT, whereas he holds the North American title and the NXT belt, which he won this past week, defeating Adam Cole. And it was a very solid match. I enjoyed it, and I believe the results leaked maybe around Thursday or Friday of the week prior. So everyone knew what was going to happen coming into this. And it was unfortunate because I think it was unfortunate that it leaked, but seeing how the ratings actually did okay for that show, I don't remember what the actual numbers were because it's been a couple of days. But seeing that the ratings were still strong enough, I think it was a good a good indictment of Lee as a champion. But he got the win over Adam Cole, and now he holds both belts. And I'm very pleased about what I'm seeing with Lee because he's been very strongly booked since Survivor Series last year, where he was the last individual in NXT left standing. He faced off against Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in the end there, and everyone thought that it would be Roman and Seth at the end, but actually he pinned Seth, and it was Lee versus Roman at the very end. So he got that bit of respect, that he got more respect in the way he was booked at what was that, the Royal Rumble. Even though he was tossed out by Brock, he did look very strong there, which I was a little bit upset about at first, but it all played out well. So now we're looking at him being very strongly built, and they even didn't mess him up when they paired him and Mia Yim against Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. They could have really messed that up. I was hoping they were going to go in the direction that allowed us to see some intergender wrestling between those four individuals, as I wrote about for Daily DDT maybe 2 or 3 months ago. If anybody was going to be able to do it right from a wrestler standpoint, it was going to be those four, but they didn't pull the trigger there. But again, he has been booked very well over the last 2 months, and I think that that's something that we should be praising and something that we should be proud and happy with. I'm actually working on two pieces this week about Keith Lee, and one is particular is that he isn't a token champion. I saw a lot of people on Twitter where this conversation came up with the idea that he was a token champion because of the WWE making a statement about racism in this country. They didn't make a complete strong statement, but they still made a statement. And we've seen wrestlers such as the New Day and Cedric Alexander and others being open about their support of Black Lives Matter. Some individuals try to denigrate Lee's championship win as a token win, that they just put the belt on him so they could put the belt on a black man. And I hate to say that. It's sad. It doesn't surprise me that people took that stance, but it's sad nonetheless. I mean, in reality, it shouldn't be surprising because that is what people with hate-filled hearts do. They try to denigrate what they see others achieve. So there's no difference here. Lee definitely deserves this moment. So let's see what is going to happen next. And even before the Great American Bash, the second night ended, we saw Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux watching over Lee, and Cross sent out a TikTok tweet the next, like maybe an hour later, not necessarily not TikTok the app, but as in TikTok, as in his time is up. And while I am enjoying Cross, I think he is a cool character. I think WWE has done well with how they've booked him over these last couple months that he's been in the organization. However, for both his sake and Lee's sake, they need to keep him out of the title picture for a little while. Can he be the one who defeats Lee and takes that title off of him? Sure, I am totally here for that. But that should not happen until, I'm thinking, Royal Rumble next year. It's July. If you give me a solid 6 months with Lee as NXT champion, I think that does a lot for him before moving up to the main roster. He doesn't have to have that 403-day reign like Adam Cole did. He doesn't have to have 100 and so 200-day run like Finn Balor did. Give him, actually, 6 months is about 200 days. Either way, give him a solid 6 month run, even 4 to 6 months run, and let him come off as a monster who is also like the positive character he's kind of playing right now. Let that set in with everybody, because we know that he can put on some great matches. So let that kind of sit in and let that look fantastic. Let that fantastic feeling about him being champion sit in for a little while before we are already having the conversations about him losing that belt. However, he does need to drop that North American title, and the reason why I say that is because that belt is meant for a mid card individual, someone who that that title helps elevate. And I think that someone like a Cameron Grimes, I hated him at first. Hated him at first. He reminded me of everything that I despised from North Carolina when I lived there. And I hate to say it, like Burlington, North Carolina, where he's billed from, is the city that was around the college that I went to school, Elon University. So I'm very familiar with that area, and I laugh every time I see Cameron Grimes because he reminds me so much of it. From his draw, the music, his clothes, like everything reminds me so much of pieces of North Carolina from where I grew up. But he's grown on me. I think he's funny. His matches are good. His matches from Balor was enjoyable. I've heard about his hour-long matches that he used to do in other organizations, and I want to go back and kind of watch some of those as Trevor Lee, just because I'm not that familiar with him back then. But in NXT, I've enjoyed the last maybe 2 or 3 months of his booking, and I think that he could be someone who is a good NXT North American champion, who is like a douchebag to everyone, who people can chase for an extended period of time, and that will work for him. He doesn't have, like, he's another one of these guys that has no business even thinking about going up to the main roster, because he's not going to be utilized right. There's no way in hell he will be a joke, and he will be treated as such. But keeping him in NXT is a positive for Trevor Lee, and one way to do that is to get that NXT title, NXT North American title, around his waist, and I believe that that's possible without making Lee look weak. My recommendation around that is they do like a three-way match, triple threat. That's what WWE loves to do. It's their bread and butter. Do a triple threat, but have Lee have to defend both titles back to back. The first fall is for the North American title. The second fall is for the NXT Championship. You can have Lee pin someone like, let's say, a Damian Priest or Finn Balor again or something like that for the North American strap. Then have uh, Lee pin whoever else, figure that piece out, and keep the NXT Championship. You've gotten one title off of him, gotten a title on someone who could be established in that role, and kept the NXT Championship around. I think that would be fantastic. He needs a solid run. The Karrion Kross feud, I want to see it. I think it will look good. I think it's not even an opportunity to. They probably won't do that, but I think it's even an opportunity to involve Scarlett and Mia in there some way. I don't think they have any intention of having Scarlett wrestle right now. But it's slow and steady wins the race in professional wrestling. We're going to talk about slow and steady in a second with Sasha Banks and Bayley, but slow and steady wins the race in a lot of these angles, and WWE seems to not like to do it slow. You saw what they did with the Fiend. They put the title on him, and it just did not work. They had to have Goldberg beat him to take the title off of him to get it on to someone else. It was just not a good look in any way, shape, or form. They can damage Karrion Kross in the same fashion if they make that same mistake with him. And I'm hoping and praying right now that they do not do that for not only his sake, but for Keith Lee's sake as well. I think he should be champion until December of this year and maybe drop the belt sometime around Royal Rumble in 2021. So let's move on and talk about Sasha Banks and her reemergence. We're going to talk about Bayley in pieces of this as well too. But the last few months for Sasha Banks have been big, big. And the reason why I say that is because when she first came back, when she walked away from the promotion, and it was clear that she was upset, she's looked 100 times better. And when she first came back, I thought they were going to mess her up even more. She just didn't see. She like seemed off, and not necessarily was her, but like the booking around her was off. These last few months, everything has been pristine. And I don't know if it's all just her, if it's her and Bayley, or if it's her and someone in the back coming, giving them stuff as well. But from her ring work to her social media presence to her promos to everything she's doing outside, all of that stuff has been in sync in a way that is just magnificent, and I'm enjoying watching it. The little things that she's doing, like when she's holding Bayley's belt while Bayley's wrestling, putting it around her waist and like looking at it adoringly, or when her and Bayley were doing that interview and Sasha was touching the women's title and Bayley kind of flipped her hand off of it. All of those little things are exactly what we need in this angle because it's super petty and it's super, what's the word I want to use? It's super it's hinting at things that people who watch wrestling and enjoy wrestling Twitter are like eating up and talking about all day, every day. She is a mega star. I understand that Charlotte Flair is propped up as that individual who is the star of women's wrestling, but Sasha Banks has that appeal to be something bigger and better than Charlotte. I mean, you forget she's about to be in season 2 of The Mandalorian. If that goes fantastically well, we may not know what the future of her career looks like from a wrestling standpoint, because she may very well be gone, or she may be given other opportunities that are more lucrative and more important to her long term. And you can't say she doesn't have appeal, because if you look at, I know people are ranting and raving about the conversations around ratings between AEW and WWE on Wednesdays. You know, they're stupid, they're whatever. However, 2 important weeks in that conversation, Sasha Banks was the focal point, or one of the focal points in those wins. The first weekend, where it was her and Bayley against Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart, they won that weekend. They were the main event. And then when she faced off against Io Shirai, she was the main event there along with Io. They won that weekend as well. And it probably helped them win the third weekend, where even though she nor Bayley were on the show, they still won handily. That is important. You see what her segments are doing on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown as well. Those are the better rated segments there. Yes, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown are down consistently across the board, but their segments are still doing better than everyone else's. They're actually growing people across those segments, which I think is important, because we need to recognize that she is a star and she is someone that the WWE should be propping up as such. And it seems like they finally have gotten that point. So now we're heading to this series that's definitely coming with Bayley. I'm leaning towards it coming. You know, they're so hot right now. I could definitely see the WWE be like, we're going to keep them together. But we have this storyline going where they are heading into Extreme Rules this weekend. They're both, Sasha's fighting Asuka for her title. Bayley's defending her belt. I'm expecting that situation to play out with Asuka winning and Bayley winning, and then that kind of sowing the seeds for some discord between the two. And then they drop the tag team titles, and then they end up facing each other. But I wonder how it's going to be done. I think right now, Sasha will end up being the face. She will be the one that the people get behind, even though no one's there. She will be the one that people get behind. Bailey will be the heel. I think that's the best way to go about it because it plays off of their previous encounter back at NXT Brooklyn, NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2. It plays off over that main event that they had together, and it gives us a fresh look at how this feud will figure out. And then it also allows us to continue that storyline in the future because we know we were going to get back to this at some point in time. I think this is going to be one of the best. Again, if WWE keeps the right people's hands out of the shit, I don't want Bruce Pritchard to touch it. I don't want Vince McMahon to touch it. Like if no, like have I've heard that Jamie Noble has had a part in their production. I want to look more into that, but keep the right people on it because this could be something special long term. It could be something special long term. And right now, WWE doesn't have a lot of things that are special. They just don't. They have a smattering of something here, a smattering of something there, but overall, they don't have a lot that makes me want to stop and watch each and every week. Even though I still do. We have Extreme Rules coming up next Sunday, the 19th, and there's nothing exciting about this card. I don't care about Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. Is it going to be a cinematic match? Okay, sure, fine, whatever. They're doing one all the damn time now. I am interested in Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. I think that match is going to bang. I'm interested in the women's matches as well. Everything else outside of that, Apollo Crews MVP. Okay, I'm keeping a close eye on that. Street Profits, don't care. Viking Raiders, don't care. We're probably gonna do Matt. I think they're doing. That's this weekend. Matt Riddle and AJ Styles. But there's pieces of things, but nothing gets me as interested as Sasha Banks and Bailey right now. And I hope that they keep this running in the right way. So the next piece we have is AEW. I'm gonna talk about that, and we're gonna start with AEW Dark from last week. I'm really enjoying that content. It's an hour plus, usually like hour 20 minutes of nothing but wrestling. And even though I don't know all the names on that show, they do a good job of introducing me to people that I may be interested in the future. Let's take this week for an example. I know who Brian Pillman Jr. is. I've known him from MLW. I follow him on social media. He got his singles match, his singles debut on Tuesday last week. I don't know if he's been in any tag matches. I may have to look, but that's neither here nor there. I like Brian Pillman Jr. He has some big, big, big shoes to fill because his dad is who he was. His dad was probably one of the best characters in that generation, Flying Brian Pillman. Um, but it looks like Flynn, and that's Brian Pillman Jr.'s name. His name is actually Flynn Pillman, or is it Matt Flynn? One of the two. He looks to be going about it the right way, and I'm hoping that he's getting the experience in wrestling that he wants to get instead of constantly having to live in the shadow of his father. I hope that that's not the case. But this guy, he looks good. He looks the part. Like, he looks just like his dad. He has that mullet going. He has a great physique. I like everything I saw about him. Yes, they had him lose to that motherfucker Sean Spears, but that's neither here nor there. I hope that they keep Brian Pillman around because they can do some good things with him. And I want to see some long-term build with him because I think that would be great. Same way I said about Ricky Starks maybe 2 weeks ago before that. Ricky Starks is one of those guys. I see his name, whenever he's on AEW, I'm going to make sure I'm watching him, Pac, Ray Phoenix, Brian Pillman is now in that group, Scorpio Sky as well. Whenever they're on TV, I'm making sure I'm watching Big Swole too. She's in that list as well too now. Whenever they're on, I'm going to make sure I'm watching, and I'm looking forward to what they do next with Pillman because I think he has a huge, huge upside. Although I wonder how he got out of that MLW contract. I saw someone mention that he was still on the contract with them, I think, but who knows in pro wrestling anymore. Scorpio Sky, he continues to look good. They have to give this guy a legit singles run. There's so many different reasons why. The first one that stands out to me is they have absolutely zero black male single stars. They have a bunch of jobbers, but they don't have anyone that stands out. Scorpio Sky can be that guy. They've done those vignettes for them to make it seem like they're investing in him. And I'm just hoping they do that. He has his own music. They talk about that when he comes out, that he and the rest of SEU made a decision that he'll go his own route, and the rest of them will, and Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels will focus on the tag team division. Perfect. I'm glad they explained it. Now let's see Scorpio get some wins. I want him to take that belt off of Cody. However, it shouldn't. I don't. It shouldn't be done as like a surprise opponent scenario. I think that would blow. It would blow the interest. It would blow the build. Instead, let them have maybe some close matches or something like that. Maybe like a time limit draw or something along those lines. Give me some build. Give me some build, and I would love to see that long term because again, he looks the part to me. I don't know if he would be a draw, quote unquote. Would their numbers go down on a week to week basis? Would they blame it on him? Of course, I can already hear one podcast blaming it specifically on Scorpio Sky if that something like that was to happen. But we can only find out. We can only push for that in one way, and I think that he is the type of guy that could be the truth in that role. Serpentico, I think that's how you say his name, Serpentico, however you say that guy, he looked good as well too, and I'd like to see some more of him. AEW Dynamite this week, it was the second night of Fyter Fest, and all I want to talk about from that night is the fucking tag team match. Bananas, that's it. Bananas. FTR, Page and Hangman, no, excuse me, FTR and the Bucks, Lucha Bros, and was it the Butcher and the Blade? I don't even know. Yes, it was. This is what tag team wrestling is, or not necessarily just this, but This is an area of tag team wrestling that we've been missing out on thanks to WWE for so long. To think all the teams that WWE has had, FTR, they had American Alpha, New Day, they have Street Profits, they have the Viking Raiders, they have just people that they've had, Usos. There's so many teams that they've had over the years that, like recently, you can see even like the last 2 to 3 years that are stellar, but they shit the bed in that division all day, every day. But you have AEW out here letting these guys put on a fucking show. This match is going to be on the short list of match of the year. And did the Adam Page, uh, Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks match, was that this? I think that was this year as well too. Who knows? Like it feels like it was so long ago. It was before COVID-19. But this is going to rival that match for match of the year. It's amazing that AEW has the potential of having a match of the year, not only in their promotion, but in the conversation for match of the year across wrestling, be two tag team matches out the gate. You have, for me, Kenny Omega versus Pac. That best 2 out of 3 falls will take it just because it has my boy in it. But these matches here are bananas. Go back and watch that match, ingest it, and then watch it again because it was fantastic. And to be honest with you, I can't remember anything else after Fyter Fest. If I didn't have my notes right here in front of me, I can't. And that's indicative of that's kind of where I am with AEW. They have some things I like, they have some things I don't like. But the things that I do like and I enjoy sticks with me for much longer. Taz bringing back the FTW championship. I don't know, man. I'm like, is anybody asking for this? Does that mean Brian Cage is an actual champion now? Does Jon Moxley win that title because he's going to beat Brian Cage? You're not taking that belt off of him. So does that mean that Moxley's going to be FTW champion as well too? I guess he's going to be Moxley 3 straps now. Like, if Brian Cage wins, is he going to be defending that belt too? Like, there's so many different questions to be asked, but I get it. I'm a Taz guy. I love the FCW gimmick. that he was doing back then. I mean, that dude, he does nothing, he can do no wrong in the wrestling world, in my opinion. But I just was not as excited about this FTW stuff as everyone else seemed to be. So let's talk about. Oh, and yeah, Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. It was what we thought it was, or excuse me, it was what we thought it would be. Comedy moments. Jericho gets the win. Does that help Orange Cassidy? I don't know. Does it help Jericho? Probably not. But let's see. I just shrug my shoulders and let's see what happens going forward. Um, I am going to watch New Japan Dominion. It occurred this morning. I'm going to sit down and watch that. And I make, like, as I said on the past couple of episodes, I'm making a concerted effort to watch more New Japan content. There's just so much content out there across professional wrestling. I think there's a lot to talk about, and I want to do that because I think it would help me speak more to what's going on in pro wrestling in an enjoyable fashion. There's so much to really kind of watch and kind of hang on to. I would be glad to stay up to date on that type of stuff. But I'm seeing that Evil defeated Naito. So they were both part of LIJ. Evil was kind of the guy that I've always been told or seen conversations about that he's like a fringe top guy. He'll never be the guy. Well, it looks like he is the guy now because he has both belts. So I'm going to go back and watch that tonight, probably since there's nothing else on. And he also joined the Bullet Club. So the Bullet Club, to a lot of people, has kind of run its course. I still rock with Tama Tonga. Taji Ishimori is my dude. I am determined to be built like Ishimori when I reach that age. The guy's like 40 and he's jacked. So my job, my goal is to look like him as I get older. I'm 36, so I'm not that far off. But I'm not sure if they're as over the hill as people thought or say they are. I wish this is one of those moments again where you wish that there was a crowd in attendance to see what would happen, see how they would react. But we'll figure it out once we get back to that point. Japan's closer to getting back to that than we are in the United States, so maybe we'll see it sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's it, everyone. This is episode 63 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, my name is Raphael Garcia, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this show and check out our content on MMA Ratings, on the part of the MMA Ratings Network every week. As I said at the start of the show, you can catch our content by following us on Instagram and Twitter at MMA Ratings Net in both locations. You can go over to MMAratings.net to find our main content. Adam Martin carries a lot of the load when it comes to writing. Sean Humes does a lot of writing there. I do a couple pieces, at least one piece a week. And you can also find our podcast content there. We do a weekly MMA podcast every Tuesday, myself and Shawan Humes, called the MMA Ratings Podcast. That show actually usually drops on Wednesday, though. So we tape Tuesday night, early morning, Wednesday drop. But there's that show. There's also this show that I'm trying to do better, getting it weekly, but the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast usually airs Thursday, Friday drop date. And you can catch us on Instagram and Twitter if I have not said it already at MMA Ratings Net. Me, myself, and I, you can catch me at rgarcia_sports on Instagram and Twitter, where I am covering professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, combat sports, and everything as a whole. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to the show. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and wear your mask.